Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of Minions of the Sea. I'm your keeper this evening, Skep Tock, and with me I have Minions Blind Press,
Hello, everyone.
Prospero,
Hello.
and the Harry Channel. Welcome all.
Good evening.
I hope you guys had a good day today. I was musing about some of the news that I was reading today, and I'm just getting a feeling for the spirit, the zeitgeist, as it were, that's in the air right now. I'm getting the feeling that the wokeness slash cancel culture business is feeling a bit stale. I think people are taking a look at it and saying, nah, that's even too stupid for me.
I'm starting to see that. Like, even when I scroll through my TikTok For You page and I see creators that are like that, for the most part, I don't agree with because they're too left for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm by no means a right leaning person, right?
No, you're not.
But they are way too left for me, and I'm starting to hear them go, this is getting crazy. Like it's because it is. It's like it is getting to the point where people are asking us to essentially believe that the sky is purple and we are spinning backwards and we're actually walking around on our heads, like this is what, like, you may as well be asking us to believe those three things that I just said.
That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting, is that people are looking at this and saying, these are crazy people.
Yeah.
And they're insisting that I think the crazy things that they think are true be true also.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting that it's taken this much and as far as so many have gone to strain credulity. That's the thing that will always resonate with me, is how they it really took to get to the far left really pushing the boundaries of anyone's tolerance. I mean, they're pushing the boundaries of the left, not capital L, it's tolerance now. And when you do things like the Ontario Teachers Union did, which is actually make white people's vote count for less.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, now Canada's in the unfortunate position of their Charter of Human Rights only being as strong as the government's willing to let it be.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate.
Well, that's the problem when your rights come from government, when they're not considered
natural rights.
Natural rights.
Yeah.
But to actually basically institute their own 3/5 rule and say that's progressive.
It's not racist if you do it to white people.
Well, see, that's it. And they have barred people from referring to reversed racism. Okay. Then what the fuck is that?
Words are violence, cis white bitch.
Yeah.
Well, and
so face the wall while I blow your brains out.
And it's
right.
It's scary as a parent with two young kids that essentially cannot homeschool.
Right.
Because of I'm not, because I know that there are blind parents that homeschool their kids, but for me,
there are sighted grandchildren who can't be homeschooled because their grampy killed them.
That too.
It's been a little bit of a challenge lately.
But I mean, it's just not with my total blindness, and especially with the older ones, issues,
Mm-hmm.
it's just not feasible.
Yeah.
So I'm stuck sending my kids to this shit show circus factory.
Mm-hmm.
And it worries me.
Right, because you're not made of money, so you
No.
can't send them to a private school where you could be more vocal in the in the curriculum.
Yeah.
It's not like you're in some kind of giant parenting consortium where you could say, okay, look, I can't teach the following things to kids.
Yeah.
But I can do music. I can teach them a lot about sensory experience and things like that. And and just pick a topic. I'll teach Spanish, right?
I'll teach French. I'll teach Spanish. What do you want?
Right. What do you want? Because that you'd be able to do as long as there was another adult in the room to keep an eye on the kids
and help me check their work
and help you check the work. That kind of team thing would be great.
Yeah.
But you're not living in a village.
No, and
if you were living in a smaller, a small town where a bunch of people were like, that's enough of this shit. You could say, sign us up. Yeah. I'll take these roles.
Yeah.
I'll need this assistance. And I'll come up with some other way to balance the score sheet here. And then you'd be comfortable because you'd be in the teaching, learning environment with a kid.
Yeah.
And, and as far as the issues, there are going to be other kids with issues. Mm-hmm. There are going to be teachers that are going to be opposed to what the teachers union is doing.
Yep.
They may be fearful to speak up.
The liberalism and the foolishness of the teachers union notwithstanding, I'll tell you what I'm seeing that makes me think that there's a little bit of pushback. I'm seeing things in more than one cultural area. I'm seeing things like Dave Chappelle in the entertainment arena, and
just
saying, "Hey, y'all are full of shit."
And Bill Maher doing
stop the nonsense. Then you see somebody see like Bill Maher, who is a leftist. He's a David Corn leftist to the core, and he realizes this is unhealthy. He's got that fundamental sense and actually cares enough to say it. I think a lot of people on the left realize this stuff is bad. It's negative. It doesn't provide the value that it purports to provide. And they would like to find a graceful way to moderate some of the things they've come out in favor of. I really truly believe that. I think the big caucus that's going on right now is not among conservatives or libertarians. It's among liberals.
Oh, if it weren't for cognitive dissonance, they would fly apart into atoms.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they are being held together purely by gaslighting themselves.
Yeah.
And it's spectacular.
Like
it's mental health wise, I'm actually impressed that more of them have not snapped.
I agree.
So what's the thesis here? You're saying that this is such a big thing. I'm not sure which handle I'm supposed to be reaching for.
You can reach for any.
You don't want to do that with me. We only have 2 hours. So you're talking about the great unwashed masses, the proletariat. The proletariat. That you think the proletariat is starting to get fed up with the woke movement. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes. In particular, within them, the liberals, mom, pa, kettle, normies, liberal folk from Minnesota, good folk from Minnesota, who just are seeing stuff they can't recognize and cannot reconcile with all the values that have been inculcated in them over a lifetime.
Well, there's all these noisy people, right? So, if you go on the Twitter, how many prominent conservative or hell, even centrist celebrities are there on Twitter. Well, we've got James Woods. The mostly
Shatner.
Coherent William Shatner,
Yes.
Gina Carano,
Kevin Sorbo.
Adam Baldwin.
I never thought I would start thinking that Kevin Sorbo made
Kevin
sense.
Sorbo, Christy Swanson. What is it? I can't remember. Did what's her name? Kirstie Alley come on board?
Kirstie Alley.
Okay. The fact that I still have fingers.
Yes, I was just going to say you're
Nick Searcy.
Nick Searcy. Okay, we got Nick Searcy. I still have fingers.
Adam Carolla.
Adam Carolla is he's fairly sane, but it's not very many. It's not very many.
Well, they don't get invited to the fun parties if they say bad things about their people.
So we can't really use for the thing that Skep's bringing up. We can't really use them as a barometer,
right?
So all we can believe are the things that the news tell us about things that happen elsewhere, and the actual interactions we have with regular people.
Yes,
those are the only two pieces of information we have. We have the gaslighting news. And then we have our own personal interactions. And I can tell you that based on personal interactions, most of the people I know in California, corporate lawyers and people like that, have not been on board with any of this ever. It's not like there's been a sea change. They're just like, just keep your head down and don't. It's California. You don't want to get in trouble.
It'll pass.
But I haven't noticed any change in those people. Where I start to notice a little bit of a change is when I talk to people and they're saying, yeah, the obvious racially based casting changes that they've made really didn't make this movie any better. Even I see that. When I start hearing those kinds of things, then I know that it's starting to sort of erode. And I'm far too nice a person. I mean, even though I am a giant dick a lot of the time, I'm far too nice a person to my actual friends to say I told you so.
Yeah, but you're thinking it, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are certain conversations I have to mentally say, okay, we are not talking about this. We're not talking about this. We're not talking about this. We're not talking about this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I tried to explain to somebody the other day that even though immunocompromised people are on the top of the vaccine list because of the risks they're in, that some immunocompromised people aren't uptaking the vaccine because they're immunocompromised. Their immune system won't respond to it the way it's designed to. And they just looked at me because they were like, stop right there before you go anywhere. The CDC says, and I said, I know what the CDC says.
On which day? Which day? Which CDC day?
I didn't even go there because when I said, don't lie to yourself, viruses can penetrate masks. We're talking about viral load.
Yeah.
We're not talking about impenetrable. I said, there are a couple breather masks that might come as close as you can. Well, I'll have to check with their partner, who is a dentist, about that. And it was like, dude, you can Google the size of the particles. And I thought, there's no point in having the conversation because when somebody palms out to me, stop right there. The CDC says, and it's like, bruh, I have spent more time watching more videos from more scientists than you have.
Well, and then there's the...
they don't have the time. They don't have the interest. They just smile and nod.
Or then there's the people that say that if you don't choose to take this particular vaccine, that you should not receive medical care.
You might as well double down on the rhetoric, but back to Skep's original premise. There's a bunch of people now. I mean, the big picture of this thing in like 30 seconds is look at what they talk about in things like rules for radicals. Normally, you'd have a certain hierarchy. People who are, agreeable, dominant, capable, end up sort of being in charge of stuff. And then a bunch of other people say, that looks good, I'm with that person. And then there's a small bunch of social loafers that try to just sort of hide and do as little as possible. That's what society generally looks like. But what
that's
they
actually
did,
my particular subspecies.
Yeah, but what they did is they quite cleverly said, what if we can invert the power dynamic by telling the 80% that the 20% don't deserve to be in the 20%? And we don't need to go through the whole history of how this happened, but here we are. So now you can take somebody who has no achievement, no real gravitas, no real whatever. Pick a thing. There's no way in which this person is the person you would want to have in charge. But they can say, based on something in their experience, their a sexual assault or their lived experience, or some racial thing or something about them growing up or whatever, that they have some sort of special status. This sort of because of some sort of characteristic, and they can say, oh no, it doesn't matter that you went to the Wharton School of Business or whatever you did, I should be in charge. And even if I can't be in charge, I should have one of my cronies basically staring over your shoulder the whole time to make sure that you basically do what I want you to do. So you're just nominally in charge.
Well, we have seen that in the Democratic Party, because Nancy Pelosi is the former. She is the person you described as dominant, with good leadership skills, articulate and smart. She is. You okay?
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I was gonna say, what is she articulate anymore, though?
Yeah, well, but in her prime, Nancy Pelosi was a force. She still is a force to be reckoned with, but she was the force to be reckoned with.
Well, she's a skilled politician.
She's a very skilled politician.
Can't organize her thoughts very well now.
No, well, she's also up against it now. She is the 20%. And look at the amount of the 80% that you mentioned that are in Congress.
Yeah.
And there were always numbskulls like Eric Swalwell in Congress. I mean, big dumb jocks going, because, that's kind of what he looks like. Doesn't he just look like the high school baseball star who, with good teeth, who went into politics? And
he does look like a dishonorable discharge from pilot training in the military, is what he looks like to me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He
strong chin, weak character.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, you put him and Dan Crenshaw in an elevator, and only one of them is coming out as an entire person.
The other one's coming out as a coat.
Yes. Yeah, I skinned him and wore him out of the elevator. But, Pelosi is up against the AOCs, the squad. These demonstrably low credibility IQ, low capability IQ people. Or low CQs. We'll call it CQ, capability quotient. I wouldn't put AOC in charge of a one-car funeral.
But she's still closer to the top. That's the thing. And if it's the common people,
she doesn't come out of the 20%.
No, but it's the apparatchiks, I think, and the useful idiots that I'm worried about at the lower level that the people Skep was talking about. You probably know more about this than I do. The people who have nothing else are going to continue to harp on this. The ideologues, they're going to continue to harp on this from the lower levels of society. Not saying their value as a human being, just
academia, you mean?
Yeah, basically these people who've embedded themselves in the apparatus, these sort of middle class, upper middle class type people. They're using this for leverage. And then there's all the useful idiots. Yeah. And what I think we might be seeing is nothing is going to stop the apparatchiks short of them being completely shut down. They have nothing to lose. They are going to ride this thing to the end. But are they starting to run out of useful idiots? That's what I want to know from you, Prospero.
I think you're not wrong, because we began to see some pushback within teachers' unions. You can't. There were some people who chose teaching not to join a union and lobby and go on, women's marches and feminized. Some of them did it because they had a love for teaching. And you sat them out for a year because boo, plague. And the ones that care about their students, the ones that care about all their students, are up against it. I wonder how many of the teachers in Ontario who have just found out that if they're members of the union and by dint of their race, their vote within the union no longer counts the same.
Are they going to reduce their dues by the same proportion?
Of course not. And I mean, this is a fundamental violation of the human rights.
They're only 3/5 of a person.
But it is a fundamental violation of the Human Rights Charter in Canada because it is distinguishing people by race and creating second-class voting. They're not even giving them full voting rights. By reducing their vote deliberately, they're sticking them in the 3/5 category. And it's rank bigotry. It's racism, actually, but, let's just stick with bigotry. You don't suit the particular set of criteria we need. I'm just going to be curious to see whether in a lefty haven like Ontario, with a big city like Toronto being lefty as fuck, whether you're going to get blowback. I mean, in Ontario, California, I think you might get more blowback. I don't know.
What do you think, Blind Press? Do you think that's a possibility?
I hope so. I hope that there are teachers that are brave enough to stand up, because unions, I can understand, in some, back in the days of an incredibly, mining and shit like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Unions
railway workers, miners, steel
unions
workers
had a purpose, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
unions were miner attracted people.
But
see what I did there?
In today's context, unions are for the most part a giant hassle.
And they're a political organizing committee.
Cudgel.
Yeah.
And they silence the people within them that disagree. And unfortunately, teachers' unions are some of the most powerful unions in either of our countries, quite frankly. They pull a lot of weight.
They have a lot of money. That's why
they have a lot of money.
They pull a lot of weight within one political party.
Yes, but the sick part is that they use the kids to do it.
Oh yeah. Won't someone please think of the children?
It's not only won't someone please think of the children, but then it's also, if we don't get our way, we just won't educate your children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll walk out.
What was the thing where the
teachers union is a prime example?
What was the deal? I thought this was in Canada, where the teachers were going to stay out. Even after it was safe to go back with COVID, they were
threatening to do that.
Yeah, what was the deal? We talked about that on your show.
Yeah, they were threatening to do that if at first it was if we aren't among the frontline workers, among the first people
to
get vaccinated, then we're not going back.
We're oppressed, don't you know?
And then it was, okay, fine, you can be with the healthcare workers and shit. Oh, well,
yeah.
The kids, there's still germ factories, and I'm really scared of COVID. But you're vaccinated. But I know, but the kids, they're the kids, they're germ factories. Okay, but you're vaccinated. You know, like that. And finally, they just kind of stopped because the answer they kept getting was, you're vaccinated. You should be fine. What are you bitching about?
If I recall, the LA teachers were doing something very similar. Harry, do you remember? Because they were getting very pushy about what conditions they would return.
Well, the LA Union School District Teachers thing, I forget what their stupid name is. They are, the wokest of the woke.
Yes.
Mm.
And it was pretty much, unless we restructure society and change everything, unless we do. So what is it? The Great Leap Forward? Mm-hmm. What is the 2030 thing? I don't even remember what their stupid project's called now.
The Great Reset.
The Great Reset. Thank you. Basically, they had this huge list of things they wanted. Among them, we want you to basically outlaw charter schools because reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unless you outlaw our competition and give us everything we want and restructure society, we're not going back to work.
Have you ever talked to an education weenie, somebody who is really into the financial arguments of the education arguments, and asked them, why are liberals against charter schools?
I've seen some of their criticism, and it's ridiculous.
It's some of the most uncomfortably intellectually false things I've ever seen represented generally as true.
It'll remove money from our budget. Yeah, but you won't have as many kids. It'll remove money from our budget. We won't be able to teach the kids we have because we won't have as much. You'll have the same amount of money per kid. No, you don't understand. It'll remove money from our budget.
No, we can't guarantee quality. The quality is going to be uneven.
It'll be the same dollar amount per student that it was before. No, it won't. Yes, it fucking will. They
keep saying 2 and 2 equals 5, and it never equals 5.
It is, and it's interesting because it's like they develop a stutter.
Yeah,
because that's all they can say. You're taking money out of the budget. It's a per student budget, you assholes. When you break
what I found is arguing with these guys online is that's a fast ticket to getting blocked.
Oh yeah,
I get. I'm not blocked by very many people. I'm actually fairly friendly online, believe it or not. But I am blocked by a few people, and not a few of them are people who have lost financial conversations with me, who have maintained something in to be true, and I've been able to show them in no uncertain terms that what they're saying, isn't supported by any real principle. It's supported by the way that they wish the world worked. Oh, and I get blocked.
You told them their shit didn't smell like Shalimar. And that's
I told them that too.
Yeah, well, but no, I mean that's their problem. Yes, it does. I mean, there is a requirement to lie to yourself. If you have any reasonable ability, any intelligence, all those people were taught that 2 + 2 = 4. They know goddamn well that if you put 2 apples on this side of the table and 2 apples on that side of the table, and then shove them together, you have 4 apples.
Right.
But they'll still have to tell you that that's not the case because feels. It's what I said about them atomizing without the cognitive dissonance. They will deny reality because to recognize reality is to suddenly crash into adulthood. And the fact that, no, Santa's never bringing you that pony. There is a childishness about them that is, it would be heartbreaking if they weren't so dangerous. They're dangerous, though. And that's what bothers me about them. I mean, I used to have a lot more pity for these people.
No.
Than I do now. Now I'm utterly merciless about them. Fuck them. If they're going to lie and manipulate and cheat reality the way they do, then...
But they're doing it because they love the children.
Yeah, no. Then I'm here with a wheelbarrow full of reality and plumber's helper to shove it down their throat.
Well, and it's the same crap. Like, it's the same sort of bullshit when it comes to disability. Because, like, they treat disabled people like children.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, the article I covered in my video today was a perfect example of that. Because BuzzFeed was talking about how there's ableism in news coverage of the coronavirus and in our language in general, and how we can dismantle it. And their source material is from an article from a fucking year ago from some chick from Ricochet Media.
Oh.
And the whole article is basically able-bodied people white knighting and tone policing, with like 2 examples from a disability activist that is from the new type of activist that doesn't actually want to progress things forward. They actually want to progress things in reverse.
Regressive.
And
regressive.
they
the regressive progressive is the new thing.
They want people to think disabled people
Sorry about that.
are
Get the button on time.
They want people to think disabled people are fragile. They want people to think that when we hear a phrase that happens to have a definition of the one definition of, you know, something to do with disability, that we think that that's exactly what the person means. Like, they want people to think that we're literal, that we take things literally, and that we are fragile, and it's...
Yeah, you need to decolonize your language, Blind Press, because you can no longer say I read.
Mm-hmm.
You can
I watched that movie. You
can't say I see.
Nope.
Or have you seen?
I'm looking after the kids at the, you know.
Absolutely, all of those are ableist words.
Yep.
Now, you, being a person who is grounded in reality, despite that leftism, see, it can happen, folks. You understand that blind people are a distinct minority in the world.
Yes.
And they are what I would call an unfortunate minority, in that it has been through ill fortune or accident of birth or whatever you want to call it, that they are not sighted. Because we all know it is very much a sighted person's world. Because sighted people are the majority. You know, it's just like hearing people are the majority, and fully limbed people are the majority.
That doesn't mean that able-bodied people hate disabled people.
No, nobody.
It just means that we are the minority, and we should be happy about that. Because, like it or not, if the entire fucking planet was disabled, nothing would get done.
Yeah, there would be no Braille, would there?
and into this, I offer you the students at Gallaudet University.
Oh boy, that's the deaf.
That's the pro deafness.
Yeah, that is Whackville, USA too.
Yeah, they when what was his name? King. His first name was King. I think his last name was Davis. Can't remember. Was going to become president of Gallaudet. They were angry that because he wasn't deaf. Even though he signs beautifully, he wasn't deaf, and they wanted to have a deaf representative as the president of the school, even though this guy has given his life to Gallaudet. And he eventually became head of the university, but it was there was a lot of back and forth about that. And this is a group of people who believe that their world is enhanced by not being able to hear.
Yep.
Yeah.
They talk about the peace and quiet, the ability to concentrate and focus and all that stuff, and They talk about was it the it's about how bad it is to if you're only partially deaf to use hearing assisted things like the cochlear implants. They're very against that. You would think no, they'd be for that. What happens is they begin to worship their differently abledness, as it were, and they want it to be something that it is not. They want it to be, a positive trait, something that makes them better, special. Everybody wants to be better. Everybody wants to be special. Everybody wants to be Mr. Big Shot without working real hard. That's just the human condition. But
the deaf have a really unique progressive crowd, I think, compared to a lot of the other disabilities.
They're so angry and militant.
Well, there's always something fascinating.
And they're angry at each other too. Like if you walk into a classroom at Gallaudet Light, the first thing you better do is stand up in front of that class and tell them why you were late, and you tell them that with your hands.
Yeah,
they get absolutely furious if you break like these little conventions that they have.
Yeah, it's
extremely normative.
Yeah, it's a very very parochial society.
Very. The Amish. These guys were saying, "Hold my beer."
Yeah, the blind are more diverse. And
we are more diverse.
More dispersed. Also.
And more dispersed. Yeah. But the National Federation for the Blind in the U.S. is very militantly blind. Like,
they've gotten that way. They didn't used to be.
They will shit on low vision people. They force you to do like totally blind.
They're not going to be happy until every airline pilot is a blind.
Yeah, they're the proponents of there's nothing a blind person can't do.
Yeah, right. Somebody at the NFB actually went to Gallaudet. Is my opinion, because they have that same militancy that the deaf have. Now, deaf people are
King Jordan was his name.
King Jordan. Okay. Deaf people are rude, and it's part and parcel of deafness. Tone of voice and certain things we learn from very young.
Yeah.
And there's a certain politesse in speech. And because sign language is truncated language.
Yeah.
It's a very effective truncated language.
It even sounds brusque. Like when you hear people like gesturing and
they slap their hands.
Sounds angry.
Yeah, there's a lot of violent gesture. Yeah. It's become more so. It used to be quieter. How peculiar. But you saw huge divisions arise within the deaf community between the people who chose to learn to speak. Like there's a Northampton School for the Deaf in Massachusetts, and they always did the whole learning thing, little bit like the Annie Sullivan approach with Helen Keller. What's to say you can't master things that people don't expect you to master.
Yeah.
So it was speech and sign and lip reading, and all of those things were taught. And it was a residential school, and it didn't develop any kind of reputation for a place like Gallaudet did. Gallaudet was much more of the fuck you, I'm deaf, and just fuck you for good measure.
Yeah.
And
that is absolutely true. That is absolutely their attitude.
Yep.
And it's an unappealing attitude. It's not held within any other disability group to the same extent. except for the people who are mental.
The school motto translates into, if you're not deaf, fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just reading the Latin here.
Yeah, that's a very peculiar culture. Not peculiar wrong. It's just a peculiar culture. Again, a group of people in the minority. A large number of people lose their hearing over time.
Mm-hmm.
Cochlear implants have been a miracle for people who had small tumors or something like that. They were already full-grown adults in the hearing world, or in Rush Limbaugh's case, unfortunate side effects from opiate addiction, strokes, things like that. Just like people who are newly blinded have a much different arc in learning their strategies that you have learned throughout your entire lifetime.
I find that blind people that are either born blind or blinded from a young age, like I was, the deaf tend to be a lot more exclusionary, as a whole of partially hearing, or people with
or they hate people with cochlear implants. It's a terrible thing to do to interrupt natural deafness.
A lot of us in the blind community are really shitty to newly blinded people. Really, really shitty. The ones that are.
Now you know what it's like.
Well, it's not just that. It's not just the now you know what it's like. It's the you're not doing this right. Why are you grieving the loss of your sight? It's not that bad. Blah blah blah. Like, and I've.
It's all self-aggrandizement.
Yeah.
That's making themselves sound much bigger than they are.
It's always really pissed me off that part of my community has done that, because, like,
how would a blind person like to lose a limb
or their hearing?
Yeah, or their hearing. I mean, come on.
I have always, like, even as a kid, like, there were parents that would come up to me after I would talk, and they would be like, oh, my child is newly blind, blah, blah, blah. I, even as a kid, would tell the parents, get your kid hooked up with the CNIB, get them services, get them support, get them counseling.
Yeah.
And I even say, like, I still say it to this day, find a grief counselor, and if you can, find a grief counselor who deals with the becoming disabled, like the loss of, like, or sickness, like grief over sickness or something. Like, find a grief counselor with that type of specialty, because it's normal to grieve losing a sense, and it's okay. Like, that's always what I say to people.
What would you do if you lost your hands, BP?
If I lost my hands, it would make me horribly sad, right?
Yeah.
But the one thing that I've always told Pincalo is, if I go deaf, bullet. I'm done.
Yeah, I don't know how.
That's a tough road to hoe.
Yeah,
I said if I can't hear you, if I can't hear the kids, if I can't hear music, I'm done.
Once you get to that Captain Pike in the chair thing, there's a point where there's not much point to anything.
Yeah. Actually, people have
compared
me to Captain Pike in that chair in my recliner.
I'm literally watching that episode right now on the app I told you about, Sero, on Saturday, with the described video. I'm literally watching Menagerie right now.
Excellent.
In described video.
Excellent.
I just finished the Corbomite maneuver in described video. It was fucking amazing. That's where those quotes were coming from on Twitter.
Well, the amazing, like, people who have strokes have very often so many things taken away from them at one time.
Oh, man.
And or severe TBIs.
Yes.
And it's to see the number of people that struggle back, with good support, PTOT, and counseling, because, it's natural to grieve.
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't you grieve the loss of a sense or a limb or something like that? You'd almost wonder why someone didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would be the check, the sanity check.
Well, that's an interesting thing. They always celebrate, people who are deaf and people becoming deaf at Gallaudet.
I've heard of parents who are happy when they find out that their baby will be deaf.
Oh yeah,
and there
are women
if their children are
there are women
hearing.
who want to abort on that basis. If the baby's not deaf, they don't want to have the baby.
I would never want my kids to be blind.
That culture at that university is scary.
Like, my life is not bad, right? Like, I don't think my life is bad, and I wouldn't change it. But I wouldn't want. I like when I was pregnant, I was not like, gee, I hope my kids are blind. You know what I mean? Like, that was not something that I wanted.
That's just stupid.
Yeah, it would be. It would be like, hey, I hope you have as tough a time as I did. Har har. You know, and growing up is tough enough.
Yes.
You had to do it blind. Why the fuck? I mean, you didn't have much fun.
And
in that regard, you had plenty of fun because,
ladies and gentlemen, if you ever want to do something instructive, really instructive, get a decent blindfold, one you can't see on. And I used to tell people they should do this for an hour. People can't handle an hour without eyesight. People who are accustomed to eyesight, they can't handle an hour. They can handle about 5 minutes.
Yep.
Seriously, that they have to have that stimulation. Try it sometime and see when you start to get itchy to take that thing off your eyes.
We're panicky.
I did for my phys ed project at the end of grade 9. You had to teach a gym class. And so I did I kind of incorporated like a track and field / exercise program with blind simulation. So what I did was I did a bunch of like warm-up exercises that you would do before you would run. And I led the group that way, and they were all sighted. And then we went to the track, and I made them pair up, and each, like, one person had one of those, the blindfolds that Skep was talking about, because they actually, for the CNIB, has a bunch of different types of vision impairment simulations. So I got my EA to get me the ones for total blindness. So what we did was we paired up the girls, and one of the pair had to wear the blindfold for 5 minutes, and do, like, if they felt comfortable enough to run, they could run with their guide. Otherwise, they could walk, right? And then after 5 minutes, they had to switch. And then the other person that was guiding them had to be blind. And there were girls that were weeping, like openly weeping at the end of it, because they were freaked out. Like, they were outside in an open space, even though they were being guided. It was really scary for them because they couldn't see, and they didn't have that, if you're in a room and you're doing the simulation, you can at least sort of hear, like, okay, there's something over there. But if you're walking on a track, there's nothing around you.
Yeah, it's just the
there's
track.
There's no echo sounds either that tell you where things are.
You don't know which direction you're facing, because what happens is you panic. And, it could be a sunny day, and there would be ways of figuring out where the sun is.
Yeah.
But you're panicking, you're not tuning into your other senses.
No.
It was quite an exercise in force to turn off the panic and try to turn on the other senses, because your brain is like, take the blindfold off, you stupid shit.
Yeah.
And so the other senses are not going, all right, we're here.
Mm-hmm.
They're lazing about, going, well, you're sighted, take off the blindfold. And then you're, where am I? Who can see me? What direction am I pointed in? Am I running the right way? Am I going to fall over something?
Yeah.
Because when you're sighted, you're used to scanning for objects, for things that you might trip over, for your lane lines,
all little visual reference, all the perspective stuff that you
all
do.
The things the check that the brain's doing for proprioception.
Right.
And then you take that away, and it's utter disorientation. It's like being blindfolded and going down a flight of stairs. If you don't heel kick that stair, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Well,
and after that gym class, they were coming up to me. They're like, "How do you do it? How do you do it?" And I'm like, I don't know. I was practically born this way.
Yeah.
I just do.
Yeah, it's who I am.
But it is interesting. I've spent enough time with you, streamed many hours with you, to know some of the things that you do to make up for the fact that you can't see. And it is absolutely astonishing to see you on stream, listening to a playback of chat while you're discussing a topic. It's some of the most amazing mental compartmentalization I have ever witnessed. I mean, this kind of stuff ought to be studied. I would love to know how the hell she does that. And sits there and discusses it. She discusses it, and she'll be making a point, and then she'll cut over to chat and say, "Oh, Pink Owl says blah 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 blah," and then go right back into the point that she was making.
You know what I've seen her do, though, that I thought was fascinating? I think you dropped your lighter and you had your camera on. And sighted people will even do this. If they're trying to think of something or locate something, they'll cut their eyes side to side. Like, oh, where the hell was that? You were almost doing the dog with its ears pricked up. It fell. Where did I hear that sound from? Where did it was to my left. It was, okay. And then to see you reach down and go, gotcha. But it was where was that? Where was that? Where was that? Because you're talking at the time that it happens. But I heard that click.
Yep.
Now, sighted people might recognize this if you've ever dropped a pill and it's rolled off the counter and it's hit the floor. And you didn't see it, but you heard it. And it's that, where was it? Where was it? Where was it? Okay, it was.
Is the tick off to my left? Or was the tick off
Where was
to my
the tick
right?
to my? I'm pretty sure that it was off to my left. Now I'm backing up, and I'm, because I know it didn't go behind me.
Yeah.
Certain things that you can
rule
out
is when you can see the pill on the floor, and all you have to do is reach over and get it. You don't have to get down on your hands and knees and start probing into crevices and stuff.
It's always you're always a little chuffed if you're right that you picked up on what side of you it fell on. There's almost like that little happy dance, and we're freaking sighted.
Yeah.
So to watch BP do I know damn well it didn't fall to my right.
You should see me when I catch things.
Woo!
But I'm just like, fucking right.
Yeah. Except that blade of that knife was in my palm. Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's interesting because everybody has different physical prowess. We all have senses that are more highly developed than others. Your echolocation is like a bat, because hearing would be the thing that you would have to go to first.
My orientation and mobility instructor is fascinated with, she's like, you're one of the only blind people that I work with that can do this. That I can specifically tell that the specific sound of my cane echoing in a bus shelter. And I'm like, oh look, a bus shelter. And I'm right every single time. And she's like, how the fuck do you do that? And I'm like, I don't know, bus shelters just sound a specific way. Because they only have half of a thing on the front. And then they're fully enclosed in the back on the sides.
And you've passed bus shelters a lot.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah, so it became...
You've learned for the sound that the cane changes to as you pass by.
Yeah. It's like the difference between brick and cement.
Yep.
Or...
They feel different.
Yeah. And they'll feel different through the soles of your feet, too. I mean, the amount of... The brain is an amazing thing because of the amount of sensory information that the brain takes in. And pretty much orderly manner processes for us.
Yeah. It does it for sighted people, too. It's just that because you guys can see, you don't notice it.
Yeah. You'll always run into those people among the fully sensed, let's say, who have wildly specific hearing gift on top of not having any eyesight problem at all. And it's like, damn. How the hell?
We call those people Vulcans in disguise.
Yeah. I swear to God, they were bats in a former life. They just still have that ability to go, ooh. Taste. The sense of taste. Gordon Ramsay would do on Hell's Kitchen. The blind
those always
folding
make me laugh.
And taking away sight and sound.
Yeah.
To see how well developed the palate is. And how many people are going to be able to tell the difference between certain mashed substances.
It's a pretty surprising percentage of people that can't tell the difference between, wine drinkers.
Yeah.
Who can't tell the difference between white wine and red wine when blindfolded.
Or cauliflower and mashed potatoes.
Because I'm not a super taster by any, stretch of the imagination. But this is like when you tell me that people have no inner monologue. The whole NPC thing. It's like, I can't even imagine what it would be like to be those people.
I can't. The person who has no inner monologue.
It's so foreign to me. I can imagine being blind. I can't imagine not having a voice in my head.
No, it would be like if you're reading, if you don't have a reading voice.
Oh, he has an inner monologue.
Yeah.
I have a movie in my head all the time.
Well, that makes sense.
With like a soundtrack and shit. It's weird.
Well, no, that actually in some ways makes sense because of how your brain's processing all the stimuli you're getting and turning it into proprioception. Of a doppelganger for vision. It's the closest substitute you can have of being able to environmentally describe your surrounds. The sofa is against the wall to the right with you could describe the furniture in your home.
Yep.
And where it's positioned and roughly how far from a wall it is. By paces, at least, if not by meter measurement.
Yeah, you make pictures in your brain just like we do. The only difference is you don't have eyesight as an avenue of data. So you get data in other ways. You feel for things. You can tell how close things are to a wall.
mapping software. Yeah.
Yeah, you can you know the location of things, you memorize the location of things, and you've built this picture in your mind that is, I would imagine, very much like the memories of our eyesight that we have.
In a dark room, when you get up to go to the bathroom, dead dark. I mean, as close to dark as it can be. You know, and you still know where your dresser is.
Yeah.
You don't walk into it because you've got it mapped. I staying in a hotel.
Oh, this is
thing. You study where the bathroom door is in relation to.
That's always fun for me.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring something up because I had forgotten about this before. Most sighted people have never been in a truly dark place, in a place where there is effectively 100% darkness.
No, that's true.
At Bell Labs, they have a room that does 100% darkness, and we all went in there and they turned off the lighting, and it's dark. It is different. It is different from the nighttime dark that we experience in our home, where we get a little glint of light here and there.
Your eyes don't even adjust to that, do they?
What? Yeah, no, not at all.
No, there's nothing to adjust to.
There's nothing to adjust to. There's nothing that would stimulate the dilation reflex of the
so you can't even make, after a few minutes, you still wouldn't be able to make out
it doesn't help. It doesn't help.
Wow.
It doesn't help. Yeah,
there's no light.
over time in an environment like that, your pupils will begin to get smaller. I used to know the effect that's called, but anyway, I can't remember. But the point is that eventually they will hopelessly decline in size, seeking light that is not there. But it takes a fairly long time. It's like half an hour for that reaction to happen.
Man, and then you bring people outside, and you talk about Revenge of the Mole people. Because the light blindness would be amazing. Well, I'm a bit photophobic, and I can't imagine being kept.
Actually, it wasn't much worse. We stayed in there for 10 minutes,
right?
And then we came out. Because we kind of wanted to see, and light seemed bright to us, but no worse than coming out of a dark room. No worse than coming out of a regular dark room into a bright light. It was. But the amazing thing was how dark real dark is. And I've also been in a caving adventure where they get everybody in there and they say, okay, we're going to show you how dark caves are. And they turn off the cave lighting, cave. We've got a lot of limestone caves down in Texas. And so, I took the kids to one, and that was dark. And that they were saying that there's effectively no light, essentially a light-free area, and that was probably the first time for most of us that we had experienced that. Of course, I'd already experienced that at Lucent, but anyway,
one of the things that when people say, would you, if you have the opportunity to get your sight back, would you take it? And one of the reasons I say no is the amount of time it would take me after surgery to even be able to see the tiniest amount of light without my brain just frying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how old the oldest deaf person is to receive a cochlear implant to see what the neural stimulation would be.
Yeah.
Because it could be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see being very afraid of almost a complete sensory malfunction.
Yeah.
That it's, whereas if at 3 it had been done, there would have been enough late memory of eyesight for you
Yeah.
It's that's an interesting thing, because as we progress in our ability to restore certain sensory functions, we'd want to be very, very careful to test sadly on other animals, to see how their brain reacted.
Do you remember the old experiment? I think it was Molyneux. Yeah, it was, because it was his wife who was blind, right? William Molyneux. And he proposed a thought experiment about a person who had been blind from birth, and they could tell apart a cube and a sphere by touch. Mm-hmm. If their vision were restored and they were presented with the same cube and sphere, would he be able to tell which was which by sight alone, or would they have to feel them, even though they could see them?
I think they'd have to feel them.
Yeah, I think you might be right. But it's interesting, because I studied this question in philosophy, of all places, not in one of my biology courses, but in philosophy.
Me at all, actually. That's a very philosophical question.
They were talking, you have like this Platonic ideal of the most spherical like sphere, the roundest sphere, and so those are the ones who say yes, though, they definitely would be able to tell the difference between a sphere and a cube, just by eyesight alone. And then the other people who say no, we're experientialists. These eyes have never seen roundness. Yeah. They have no frame of reference for roundness and cubeness. So no, ixnay on the recognition ray.
Yeah, the other thing I've always said is that if I got my sight back, I would probably still have to read Braille. Because I
you don't know your letters.
I know what they feel like,
right?
But I've never seen them.
I actually think that you would pick that up pretty fast.
Yeah, I do think that it would translate.
Partially because Blind Press has an excellent mind.
Well, yeah.
And it's really, really well trained at this point.
Where her neural mapping is just extraordinary.
Yeah, I guarantee you. Absolutely.
I think there might be a little lag and a lot of frustration.
Yeah.
But then it would be like click. You might say Bluey, like Uhura did.
Bluey!
That was so cute. That still rings in my mind as one of the most entertaining moments in any Star Trek episode.
Yeah.
Because of relearning. And then she swears in Swahili. Which is great, because she remembers Swahili, but she doesn't remember English, And
then Nurse Chapel has to be like, English, Uhura, English.
Yeah, but at Bluey, this blank. Yeah, welcome to English.
I don't remember that episode.
That was that Nomad that did that too?
The mind wipe, yeah.
Yeah, because she was singing.
And it was a useless thing.
And it was a useless activity. That's where one of my favorite things comes in. It functions erratically.
Yeah.
It functions fine.
It's supposed to.
It functions well enough for my purpose.
Yeah. That was one of those episodes where it was like, perfect is the enemy of good. It's just.
I was looking at the CNIB organization, Blind Press. This is really quite an organization. They've been around forever. They've been around since 1918.
Yep, right after the war. Actually, the big part of it was not just because of the war, but it was because of the Halifax explosion. There were so many people blinded in that explosion that it created a national crisis.
Is that right? I did not realize that.
Yeah.
What happened to what was the Halifax explosion?
So there was the details, I'm always a little bit fuzzy on it, but there was an outbound ship destined for Europe because the war was still going on.
Okay, so it was the SS Mont Blanc, a French cargo ship laden with high explosives. Yeah. What could possibly go wrong? Collided with the Norwegian vessel SS Collider in the Narrows, straight connecting the upper Halifax harbor to Bedford Basin, which I guess is in Halifax, Canada.
Yeah.
A fire on board the Mont Blanc led to a massive explosion that devastated the Richmond district of Halifax. Approximately 2,000 people were killed. I did not know about this.
2,000 dead, I think 9 or 10,000 injured.
9,000 injured, 2,000 dead. The blast was the largest human-made explosion at the time, resulting in the equivalent of energy of roughly 2.9 kilotons of TNT.
Yeah.
The ship was named Collider?
Yes.
No. Well, that's what I called it, Collider.
No, it was actually not Collider.
It was the emo.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to say emo because people would say start making comments about emo, so I changed the name to Collider.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the Mont
That's
Blanc.
Like the Chevy Nova.
The Mont Blanc was destined for, it was outbound. And
Try
the emo
that
was
in Mexico.
inbound, I believe.
Nueva?
Sorry.
What a bad marketing plan for Chevy for Mexican people, right? Here, buy this car. It's called the Nova. Okay.
The what? Okay. We're that Latin that you call us.
Nueva?
Yeah, I mean it's like that Latin thing.
The Nova is no good.
It is a turn of phrase. It's just...
What is the oh shoot, I can't remember. They're one of the popular Western car names means stalled car in Mandarin. Oh, I know what it is. Exxon. That's what it is. Exxon. That means stalled car. That's how you say stalled car in
Mandarin.
That's too funny.
And they were absolutely mystified when Exxon changed its name to Exxon.
From ESSO. Yeah.
Eastern State Standard Oil, which is an obvious acronym, they understood that to Exxon. Why did they change the name to
Eastern State Standard Oil? I always love that because it was actually just Standard Oil. S-O.
Why you change your fuel company to stalled car?
Yeah.
We don't understand.
We saw an ESSO. Where the hell was it? Bermuda. It was still an ESSO. That was kind of reassuring because the whole Exxon thing perplexed the hell out of me because it was like we all knew it was Standard Oil, and it was like, so why are you trying to distance yourself from the Rockefellers?
Yeah, that was actually the old Standard Oil of New Jersey, wasn't it?
Was it Standard Oil of New Jersey?
It was after the breakup.
Yeah, because it was Standard Oil of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey were the three states that they were.
Were they forced to break up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, that was what the Sherman Antitrust Act was all about, and the Clayton Act. These guys were just
rapacious.
In 1911, Standard Oil was broken up into 34 companies, some of which were named Standard Oil and had the rights to that brand in certain states. The other companies had no territorial rights. The name Esso is the phonetic pronunciation of the initials S and O in the name Standard Oil. Standard Oil Company in New Jersey, Jersey Standard had the rights to the state. Plus in Maryland, West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and D.C. By 1941, they had acquired rights in many other states, blah, 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 blah. Long right up. But anyway.
It is 1:45 for me, so I need to duck out. But Wednesdays with Skep tomorrow?
Wednesdays with Skep tomorrow. Be there or be square, kids.
Yay! 12 p.m. Eastern on the Winepress channel. And also, we've switched our store to Stream Elements because Teespring's quality has gone down, and we're just kind of we're only going to be using the Streamlabs for the tipping page because I paid for the blindpress.net thing for the year. But because of Streamlabs, stealing the software and stuff like that, so now we're using the Stream Elements merch store, and from November 26th to November 29th, if you spend $50 or more, you get free shipping.
There's your Black Friday deal.
So, if I
sell it, bitch, it's Black Friday. It's Thanksgiving. It means buy.
Yeah.
So if you go to Stream Elements between the 29th through the what again now? The 20.
Can I put it in private chat and somebody can paste it?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Just stick it right there. I'll take care of it.
What are the dates again, sweetie? The
26th to the 29th.
Okay, Black Friday through Monday. You hear that, people?
So be there or be square.
It's your whole weekend deal. This is better than Amazon. And this is brick and mortar. Just because it's online, this is still brick and mortar.
There we go. It's in private chat.
All right. And it's posted now in
there's
the big chat.
Mugs.
Hi, Uzi.
Stickers, hoodie, mouse pads, t-shirts.
Cool.
So yeah. And thank you guys for having me. It's been fun as always.
It was good to talk to you.
Good night, hon. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Check your DM. Check your DMs during.
I will. Have a great night, you guys.
All right. Good night. We'll
Take
see
care,
you tomorrow.
BP. Night.
Good night, sweetie.
I don't know if you saw when IP was basically here briefly. He's like, I can't be on. I have to leave. I said, it's okay. Just send Uzi.
Yeah, absolutely. I did see that, and I think Uzi might be listening right now. Hi, Uzi. It's nice.
I know. I see her.
Sure, it's nice to have you.
I just think it's fun to just do the ribbing thing about your better half with IP because he enjoys it. I think.
Yeah.
Well, she is his better half.
Well, yeah.
He's old and smells. She's sweet.
Unless I rate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that.
But no, but I appreciate everybody, coming out and listening to us. Assassin of the Gray, Furry Kitten, Uzi, and Sniper, and all the people who come in and make chat as full-bodied and featureful as it is all the time. I really get quite a kick out of that.
Can you change the layout to the other 3-person
Certainly.
I'm too lazy to resize my logo.
I know. I completely forgot about that. I was thinking about doing it a minute ago, and
I'm too wide, man. Like an AMC pacer. So I have a question for you. If you want something just super informal.
What's up?
So I finally broke down and watched the Dune adaptation, the one that was on HBO.
Mm-hmm.
And I got into I've actually talked to several people about this movie, and it got me to thinking, is it easier or harder to make a movie when the basis of it is a great book or like an epic story? Because I can see it going either way.
Yeah, I don't think that's a big determinant of how hard it is.
I think it sure can be, because I was looking at this. Well, maybe I'll shut up in a second. But the thing that I noticed as I was watching this movie was the thought that popped in my head was, this movie's a solid B, but there's no excuse for it not to be a solid A. You're starting with a fantastic book. They've already done 2 adaptations of it, so you can learn from the mistakes the other people made. And you've got this fantastic story to tell. There's really no excuse for it not being an A.
Right.
And I, as that thought popped into my head, it's like, well, wait a second. is that actually true? So that's what I was. That's the question.
The counter examples that come to my mind, or the examples of why possibly the caliber of the content of the underlying story doesn't make as big a difference as my intuition tells me it ought to make a huge difference. And I look at things like, look at the brilliant job that Peter Jackson did with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King. Those three movies taken together are a brilliant cinematic achievement. No, it wasn't 100% faithful to the book, but he did the best he could. He had to make a lot of tough calls, and he made them. And it came out with an excellent product that he,
best adaptation of a book I've ever seen done to
really, really well done. Then he goes and he has an
ruins the Hobbit.
He has an equally good source in the Hobbit, and he makes crap movies. He makes 3 crap movies that don't even make any sense. And you just want to throw up your hands and just say, you turned it into a bad cartoon.
And the money kept rolling in.
Yeah, the money kept rolling in.
That was, I mean, it's ridiculous. The Hobbit, the shortest story, gets 3 movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
an adult with decent literacy can read The Hobbit in a day.
The value proposition was, how do we make 3 movies out of The Hobbit?
Yeah, which is a trash thought.
We like making 3 movies, and these people will go to see anything. They'll take whatever we dish out.
You make 1 movie out of The Hobbit, you make 6 movies out of the trilogy. I mean, come on. If you were going to add more stuff in, you'd at least do it in the meaty part of the broadcast. The Hobbit is an entertaining novel. I mean,
the Lord of the Rings story is
complex
miniseries. It's a miniseries material. You almost can't really do it with movies. Period.
It's almost better.
Have to do it it almost would be better an hour-long miniseries.
But it's actually better that he did it, because then what do you do with a miniseries? How do you maintain the tension? Because there are moments. I know you're. I'm sorry. You are a Tolkien, aficionado.
It's okay to say.
I am. There are Two Towers drags like fuck. For me as a reader, I absolutely love the Fellowship of the Ring and the Return of the King, and the Two Towers. I was like, oh, Christ. In part because it took us away from the main action.
That was J.R. Tolkien telling us about what it was like to move troops around and people around during World War I. That's nice. Really what that was about.
It was nice of him to do it. I could have given a shit about what Merry and Pippin and the Ents were doing. Okay, I was like, get back to the goddamn story. There is stuff that has to be taken care of over here, and that was my problem as a reader. It was like pushing through hardened tapioca for me. I just found it really...
How do you like Return of the King?
Loved it.
The book, I mean.
I loved it.
Okay.
I've never seen the movie. I've seen Fellowship. I've seen Fellowship.
Never seen Return of the King?
I've seen Fellowship of the Ring. And I loved it. And I said, I just don't know if I want
to
see the rest of it. I know I need to, but it's, I'm a peculiar reader. I've seen movies made from books and thought they were okay, but nothing ever matches my own imagery. So I've always got quibbles. Not that I can't rationally recognize that.
But you've seen all 3 Hobbit movies.
No, I just know that it was. I knew that it was shit when he broke it into 3.
Have you seen any of the Hobbit movies?
No.
I saw one of them.
Oh, I saw the original one.
Yeah, I saw the one. It was just awful.
Well, the original one made years ago. I saw that was
no.
too.
The original Peter Jackson one.
No, I couldn't do it. I like, how dare you? Because see, The Hobbit, I read a number of years before I read the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because my dad waved the book in front of me. I was probably in 6th or 7th grade. And he said, I think you're going to like this. So I read it and I loved it. And I was kind of like, what about the trilogy? And I think my dad had read it, and I think he probably was putting me off till I was a little older and would get a grip around the story better than I would have at 13.
Yeah.
Needed a little more life experience, maybe. So I read it. I guess the summer after I graduated from high school, and just found it captivating, except for the Two Towers. And then I reread it again a year later when I had mono, and the Two Towers helped me catch up on my sleep. Let's just put it that way. I had a hard time with that one. Tolkien is wordy. Very wordy. I mean, not Game of Thrones. 4 hours later, you're still in the same field and the same grass is being described. Wordy, but aspiring to that.
I just don't think George R.R. Martin is that good a writer. I'm sorry.
I won't read him because of Cree's opinion of him. Cree is usually pretty, I think you should read this and decide for yourself kind of guy. He's just like, oh, Christ. I mean, it's
interesting. So he doesn't like George R.R. Martin either. I'd be curious as to what he finds Martin deficient in.
Tedious. He found him tedious. It was the second book he was reading.
Tedious, and he's very crude about data dumps.
Yeah, he said
his data dumps come all in one 15-page segment in every major section of the book. And if you miss something in that 15-page segment, you're screwed. You won't know how some important principle works.
And Cree likes all the classic science fiction like that you'd like. He loved Dune. He's currently rereading Foundation.
Well, has he seen?
I just finished rereading it.
Yeah.
Did Cree see the HBO thing?
No, we don't get HBO.
Well, the free trial was enough to let you watch the first part of it.
No, we don't.
But I think they just pulled it yesterday or something.
I think we saw the Sci-Fi Network one, and there was a certain degree of relief that somebody wouldn't do to it what had been done to it. But it's more of a sense of satisfaction of having read it and enjoyed it that way than a need to watch yet another film version of it. Cremate is not as particular as I am. I mean, I'm kind of particular. I did the first Dune movie, and you guys know how I feel about that.
The De Laurentiis one.
Oh, Jesus Christ, I despise that.
Just trying to make sure we're talking about the same one.
Yes,
okay.
That piece of trash that Lynch did.
Okay.
Then I saw the Sci-Fi Channel kind of miniseries of it.
Better.
Much better compared to the Lynch. But it was still a disappointment. And I just... I don't want to be disappointed a third time. And I like the book. I like the books up to a point. And then the whole Duncan, Idaho thing got old. And I was like, stop it, Frank. And he didn't stop it. And so I stopped it. And I stopped reading them.
As soon as they came up with sand trout in the second book after Dune,
you knew you were in trouble.
Mm-hmm. I put it down and I said, I'm done. No sand trout. You're not going to ruin this great book.
Dune Messiah and Kids of Dune are not great.
Kids of Dune.
God, I'm sorry. That's
Children of Dune. Yeah.
Well, Dune is not necessarily the crux of the point. I mean, at this point in time, we know how to sort of write dialogue. We know how to write drama. There's a formula for it. If you follow the formula, you can produce a solid B. And it's true for TV, because you noticed that the USA Network started putting out essentially the same show, just mildly reshaped. Starting in the 90s, so you'd get like Burn Notice and then the thing with the art thief and just all of these shows that were largely just the same show. And it was all just like pretty good, looked good, pretty people. And it just followed kind of this progression the way they were writing it. So they were just churning out the same...
It's like radio serials.
Pretty good crap over and over and over again, which led me to believe that it's no longer hard to produce something that's pretty good. We can just do it. It's like Applebee's. It's that kind of thing. So the thing that separates the good things from the bad things is the writing more often than not, because special effects are just a given now. It used to be, the special effects were great. When I walk into a movie theater or I see something and it's not like a YouTube series, I expect good special effects.
Right.
And if I don't get them, then a pox on your house. You have to do special effects properly because there's no excuse not to.
Right.
Even with like DaVinci Resolve on a single Mac, you can actually do pretty good effects.
I use for the limited amount of video making I use. That's exactly what I use is DaVinci.
Yeah, DaVinci's great. But if you were motivated and you wanted to, you could, like the guy who made Birdemic. I forget how long he spent making that terrible movie, this just epically bad movie. It doesn't take that long anymore. The tools are really available. Computers are cheap. Special effects are good. You can get books on how to write dialogue, how to make a screenplay. All of it's easy. But at the base of it, you need to have a decent story. And you don't want MacGuffins. You don't want like freaking Star Wars modern stuff. This crap that they've been producing with, I got to find the special knife, or we can't find the place where we got to go and do the thing.
Right. It's basically a written out gameplay episode.
Yeah, we got to have a thing here where this box gets chopped. And it's always the story that destroys it. So you think that like
your
having
own adventure.
Well, if you were going to make a Arthurian thing, like another King Arthur sort of thing, right? At least you're starting with a good story. But I don't think people can.
Which version?
But people can't not fuck with it. They just can't help themselves. Like Dune, I'm not going to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but there's some gratuitous changes to the story that, as far as I can tell, serve no purpose whatsoever.
Oh, good. None. Then I don't have to be disappointed.
The thing with Liet Kynes is got me pissed off.
Why? Why? I mean, what was that little this little side trip that we made that basically, and then we ended up right where we would have ended up.
Right.
It's like you could just remove that 20 minutes from the movie completely.
It's completely worthless.
It was just really, really frustrating. Maybe is it that the fact that you're dealing with something that's held in such high regard, people are kind of like, well, I'm afraid to make a mistake, or you're not the boss of me. Watch me just change things to prove that I can.
Oh, it's like Da Vinci wants to improve on a Michelangelo, or a Da Vinci in their own mind wants to improve on it. Because, I mean, what De Laurentiis did to Dune as a production was just, I mean, the whole thing was just, why did you do that? Why? I mean, I've told you I apologized to the person I encouraged to come to the movies with the two of us who had read it. I turned to her and I said, I am so sorry. Because she's like, what the fuck did I just watch?
Which version of Dune are
the first one? That first movie.
From 1984.
Yes.
That was David Lynch, right?
David Lynch directed it. The De Laurentiis produced it.
I just want to make sure, because there was another version of it as well.
No, I'm talking about the Lynch.
Okay, David Lynch movie.
Well, the Jodorowsky one never got made, and that would have been the one with.
That's what I was thinking of.
With Salvador Dali as the emperor.
Yeah,
oh God, that would have been so good.
I just want that tape.
That would have been completely bonkers.
Yep.
Yeah, what they made was a movie that if you hadn't read the book, you didn't know what the fuck was going on. It was fine because I knew what was going on. I was just very, very disappointed in how it was going on. I mean, not entirely. There were moments in the film that stick with me. There were performances. I mean, people who were in the film who stick with me. But hello, I'm Jürgen Brock now. It's
well, hell, even Linda Hunt showing up was good.
Yes.
Linda. There are a lot of good things in that movie.
Yeah. I mean, there were good actors that were in the film. I just thought you had to have read the book to know what was going on. Amazingly,
that's gonna be true with Dune, no matter what.
I'm pretty much.
Although I
will say the miniseries, the sci-fi miniseries, would have been much more accessible for somebody who had not read the book, because there was more explanation. It was like you had a little bit of the glossary,
but there's so much technology, and there's actually a lot of backstory in back of what is going on at the Empire level.
Well,
that he kind of retconned a lot of that stuff later, but it's okay because it's the author retconning. So
I know, but just the whole by the time I got to the 5th book, I was like, I will find where the Bene Gesserit are, and I will kill every last one of them. I mean, I was just at that point.
I didn't want to read after I read the word sand trout.
Yeah, well,
I said no.
There were some entertaining moments, and then there were a lot of horrible moments. The treatment of the character of Duncan Idaho infuriated me. How an author could do that to a character that they had created, like Duncan Idaho, I couldn't understand. I was
it's called a bad book.
It also made me pause. Are you suffering from manic depression, for Christ's sake? Why do you keep doing this to a character that you crafted quite well in the first book? And you've chosen this person. I mean, maybe it's because he knew there was some emotional resonance with humans toward Duncan Idaho that he chose to do what he did in later books to the character. But it was vulgar and gratuitous, in my opinion, and it got really, really old. And I just said, screw you, Frank Herbert. You had one good book in you. And I've read it. Thank you for that. Now, I've told people who pick up Dune, be warned, in the first 50 pages, you may find yourself referring to the glossary. A good deal. I was grateful there was a glossary, because if there had not been a glossary, I would not have continued to read the book, because it was just so much information. I mean, there's world building, and then here's a mini novel.
Well, his version of a data dump,
yeah,
is like saying to the reader, look it up yourself. That's what the glossary's for.
Well, yes,
so he just uses all these new terms, conversationally.
Yes,
and you're following along. Oh, wait a minute, the Sardaukar. What's a Sardaukar?
Back to the back of the book. Look,
exactly. Gom Jabbar. Oh,
and then finally, you reach a point where you've encountered those terms, and you're beginning to catch on to the geopolitics, so to speak. That it begins. You recognize who he means.
Yeah.
But it took me about 50 pages to get there.
I want to say,
and I was still checking, every now and then. Okay, am I still on the? Okay, that's right. That is those guys, that kind of thing. But it was the first 50, that laying down data dump that he does, and that I could see people saying, but that book's inaccessible. Yeah, push yourself past those first 50 pages, and then tell me what you think about the book, because there comes a point where it takes off, and when it takes off, you're holding on for the ride for the rest of the book. I mean, at least that's how I felt.
Well, there are some great stories out there that have never been made into movies, and I don't know if I want them to or not, considering the attitudes people have now. I mean, for instance, suppose they remember Moses, what was with Charlton Heston?
Oh, the Ten Commandments.
The Ten Commandments. Yeah, I mean, can you imagine them trying to remake that movie today?
Oh, Jesus.
Young Moses, growing up in the Pharaoh's camp, struggling with his emerging sexuality and weird feelings he has about the boy.
Well,
Mason.
as a young overweight lesbian of color.
Yeah.
Moses didn't fit in with the other Pharisees.
It would be just crap. It would be just utter crap.
Oh, God, the Passover alone would be hilarious.
They could not help themselves.
Oh no, they wouldn't be able to. It would be like, okay, it's going to be like Raiders meets Moses. Oh God, wouldn't you love to be a fly on the wall in the pitch meeting though?
Well, and a lot of the intellectual property stuff ruins a lot of the good fan things that might show up. I mean,
Yes.
it's kind of a stretch to call Axanar a Star Trek fan production. However, I still saw that 20-minute introduction to Axanar and thought, I want to see this far more than anything that the studio's making now. Because at least the people who are making this actually love the franchise and the story and are just trying to produce the most kick-ass thing they can produce and have fun doing it.
There were some amazing fanfic bits done around Star Trek. There were actually some very good short stories written. And then there was several extremely disturbing genres that arose from it that were wildly annoying. We should have seen it coming. It was the beginning of I'm going to work out all my issues through this and make you read it. And it was like, oh, because I mean, some of it was Dear Dark. There was a whole genre referred to as K/S. Kirk Spock.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't about friendship. There was a lot of subtext in the mind of the author. The rest of us were like, you fucked up. It was just like, hey, please don't use these characters to work out your issues. Create your own. And there's, when you were talking about, there's some Gone with the Wind gets really mixed reviews from people. Some people just despise the movie because they read the book and they adored the book. And this is particularly women who have a hard time with the way Gone with the Wind turned out because they have, I was just surprised at some of the edits that occurred because the movie is long, very, very long. What is it? 3 hours and 58 minutes or something like that.
There's an intermission.
Yeah, there's an intermission. It was just so your spine could realign. I saw it in a theater. Not when it originally came out.
3 hours and 58 minutes. You hit that on the nose.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a long novel. It's 1,000+ pages.
We'll pad that thing out. We'll make a trilogy out of it.
And well, yeah, I live in fear. I had casting issues with the movie. I could not understand some of the casting at all. Maybe at the moment everybody thought it was going to work, but that sure didn't hold up because Leslie Howard was a particular type of actor. Great in The Scarlet Pimpernel as Ashley Wilkes. Why would a woman like Scarlett O'Hara be in love with a pansy-ass motherfucker like Ashley Wilkes as he's portrayed in the movie? I would never understand. I didn't get that vibe from the book at all. I thought Clark Gable was as good a choice for the time. Vivian Leigh was fine. Olivia de Havilland was superb.
Olivia de Havilland was a gem in that.
Yeah, she was. And it's a thankless role. It is a thankless role. Because Melanie's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But she managed to infuse Melanie with the grit that Melanie actually has.
Mm-hmm.
and make you see her a little bit better than you see her if you just read the novel. She actually made the character better in my mind, which took some damn work. But I mean, there was some fine casting, and then there was some questionable casting. But a lot of people hate it because it ruined their image, or it edited out parts of the story for time, or it would have been a 5-hour movie. Pride and Prejudice is another novel that some people love, some people hate. Some people consider the like the original romance novel. I don't know if I would hang that on Austen, but a 2-hour, a number of treatments have done of Pride and Prejudice, but the BBC did one, a serial, 6 hours, I believe, 6 separate episodes.
By the way, I just wanted to say I had to look this up to see if I had the right movie or not. Do you know who was in Gone with the Wind before he was famous?
Victor Jury? No.
No. The very first TV Superman, George Reeves.
George Reeves. Yes, he plays one of the twins.
Plays
the
Charlton
twins.
Brett Tarleton. Yeah.
Yes, he plays one of the Charlton twins. Thank you. Yeah, he was real pretty.
Yep. I thought was it Gone with the Wind, the movie that Superman was in, which is the way I remember that in my brain. And I hadn't thought about it in so many years. I looked it up. Yeah, he was in there.
And it's funny because those of us who know the story, the Tarleton twins,
right? Just
like they live down the road from us.
Yeah.
Hattie McDaniel was brilliant casting.
I was just going to say, what about Hattie McDaniel?
She's absolutely superb casting. So was the guy that played Scarlett's father, I thought.
I don't know nothing about Birth of No Babies.
Oh, that's Butterfly McQueen.
That's Butterfly McQueen. I always get them mixed up.
Yeah, that's Butterfly McQueen as... right. Oh, God, what was the character's name? Sissy? It was
it was Sissy. Sissy. It was Sissy. Yeah.
No, Butterfly McQueen does a brilliant job.
Yep.
Playing a nitwit. But Hattie McDaniel is she just commands the screen when she's
Prissy. That was
Prissy. Thank you. I knew it was the issy sound.
Yeah. Prissy. That's right.
Miss Prissy. Yeah.
I've made her
I don't know nothing about Birth of No Babies, Miss Scarlett. Because she was just all full of, I know everything, and then the rubber meets the road and she doesn't know jack.
Right. I don't know nothing about Birth of No Babies.
Oh, well, I guess it's up to me.
Yeah.
But there's some extraordinary moments in that film.
Well, I think one of the most extraordinary things that we get from Gone with the Wind was Carol Burnett's send up, coming down with the drapes,
with a curtain rod still in them. Bob Mackie was absolutely, without Bob Mackie, I don't know if she could have carried those parodies as well. I mean, she would have done a very good job, but Mackie's costuming was splendid. Her send up of Sunset Boulevard is terrifying because there are moments that are just, I've never seen the entirety of the film, but I've seen enough clips of it, to put the movie together. I don't want to see it, if you know what I mean. It's a grim story.
Interesting thing that you and I have talked about before and talked about just when we're just chatting informally. And that is that we had viewing habits back then. There were things on Saturday night and Sunday night that we watched every week. Period. You didn't miss these things.
Oh, Saturday night. I was pissed off if for some reason I missed the Mary Tyler Moore, Bob Newhart show, Carol Burnett 2-hour block.
Right.
That just kind of ruined your weekend to miss that. Because you were going to have to wait till summer to catch the reruns and hope to God you didn't miss them.
There was no videotape back then, folks. There was no instant video, at your beck and call. If you wanted to wait to see that particular episode again, you had to hope you could catch it. You had to hope that it would be included in the summer reruns, and that you would be available on the night that it ran, and you would only, you couldn't record it or anything. You just watch it, and then that was it. TV was so evanescent back then. Now at least it sticks around with at least the stuff we want.
Yeah, and thank God for MeTV and things that are re-showing some stuff, because I have seen Carol Burnett episodes that I know I did not see.
Now, what is MeTV?
It's basically,
I'm not familiar with that.
I think Boomer TV. It's 70s, classic 70s, 60s, and 70s.
Oh boy!
Well, yeah, you get a whole fuck ton of Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah.
Which is fine. To me, it still holds up because it was such a period piece to begin with.
Yep.
That there's really nothing any more anachronistic about it now than there was then.
I bought the whole thing on disc because I don't want them changing it on me.
Yes.
So I figured it was one of those things that might disappear. So I went out and got another copy of Faulty Towers and a copy of Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah. Hogan's Heroes really was a splendid program.
Yeah.
It's very good comedy, very good ensemble. And just really marvelously camp performances out of Werner Klemperer. He just there are moments that man just chews up the scenery, and it's gorgeous. Because it's not gross camp, but it's camp, and it was intended to be that way. Klemperer would not take the role if it was not mocking Nazis. John Banner felt that way. The man who played General Burkhalter was like, the Nazis all, they needed guarantees that the Nazis would look stupid. And it was guaranteed. That was a Bing Crosby production. And I watched it when it was on, and I still watch it. I would sit down and watch the entirety of the Addams Family again.
Bing Crosby was an ardent Catholic.
Yeah. He wasn't much of a hypocrite, though, was he?
I don't know. I just know that he was a very, very tough father, from what I understand.
Yeah. He was a miserable piece of shit father, from everything I can tell. And you never want to meet your heroes. You remember Danny Kaye? Yeah.
Danny Kaye turns out to be one of the largest pricks who ever lived, and he was in all these happy little, kids and young adult type movies, and Disney fare almost. Just doing,
difficult
doing great
man.
song and dance, and talented guy,
very talented
to the bone, and he had all the skills and everything. But it turned out he was an absolute jerk as soon as the camera stopped.
Yeah, that nice. I never cared for him, actually. I always thought he was a little
he always spoke highly of you.
Over the top. Yeah, that my aunt always said that.
Marginally less annoying than Mickey Rooney.
Yeah, marginally less annoying. See, I never cared for Bing Crosby. All these people
that ice tube stuff.
Mickey Rooney. Let's put on a show, kids. Oh, yeah. Jesus Christ.
My mom's got some drapes. We got an old barn we can
just clean up this old barn. It'll be great.
Oh, my God.
Have you ever cleaned out a barn?
Even my mother, who was of the generation that so many of those movies were aimed toward, well, people slightly younger than she, but, it's like, what the hell is this trash? It's so funny because we went to see a screening of, oh dear God, I can't remember what the name of the movie was. Shit. It was Ruby Keeler and Dick Powell. It was just some musical nightmare. And my mother had left the theater and she was like, I can't believe I ever thought Dick Powell was good looking then. His hair was enough to make you seasick. Now, Dick Powell grew. It's amazing because if y'all out there in listening land, if you Google images of Dick Powell, young Dick Powell and his wavy hair, you're going to go out there and nobody, but you're going to come back a star, kind of musical comedy, dramedy movies that were being done. And the Dick Powell of the 1960s, early 1960s, Dick Powell Theater, the difference. That was a man that became much better looking as he got older.
Mm-hmm.
He got quite rugged looking as he got older because he was pretty. I mean, not Howard. Howard, pretty. But, and my problem,
Howard was the least bit effeminate, in my opinion. You don't think so?
He wasn't the least bit effeminate.
No, he was the least bit effeminate.
Oh, yes, he was the least. I'm so sorry, but I go to see Gone with the Wind, and I'm like, who the hell picked this panty waist to play this guy that Katie Scarlett O'Hara is in love with?
Yeah.
Because Scarlett O'Hara is not a meek woman. She is a very strongly written character, a woman of strong opinion, even from youth.
And she's found the man she wants to own.
And and my God, is he the definition of a cock.
Yep.
He is just as, Casper Milquetoast. And it's like, ew. I guess that was supposed to be the thing. I saw The Scarlet Pimpernel, and Leslie Howard does a lovely job in it, except he fits the role too well, if you get my drift. The more modern interpretation of The Scarlet Pimpernel that maybe USA or somebody did as a made-for-TV movie was much better, because at least when The Scarlet Pimpernel was off, if you know what I mean, when he was out of character as the fop, he acted and sounded like a man. Leslie Howard, where was the difference? He was a very foppish acting man. Terribly. He would absolutely perfect for Regency pieces with high-waisted pantaloons and
but I can't see him having
collars.
I can't see him making love to a woman.
No. No. I swear to God, when George Hamilton did Zorro the Gay Blade,
a tan vampire, that was great.
Yeah, but it was Zorro the Gay Blade was his send-up of Zorro.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking the other George Hamilton movie.
Yeah, Love at First Bite.
Love at First Bite.
Love at First Bite, right.
But Zorro the Gay Blade, I actually think is better.
That was a funny movie when I was a kid. I don't know if it was actually good.
He plays...
Yeah, I enjoyed it too, also.
He plays his twin.
I was youngish.
He plays his twin. And a set of twins basically becomes Zorro. It starts off as one son, who is the very masculine, very Hispanic, lover. And then the other one's name is Bunny Wigglesworth. Father sent him off to the Navy because they say they make men, and they sure made me. I mean, it is... I swear to God, he's doing Leslie Howard as the Pimpernel. Because at one point he actually goes, "Sink me," which is something that is said in the 38 version of the Pimpernel.
Diego de la Vega.
Diego de la Vega.
It's the other one, and Bunny Wigglesworth. Yes.
Diego de la Vega.
One brother.
De la Vega. The ships in the field. The ships in the field. No. The ships. The little bababas. His accent is just so stereotypical, and it's absolutely hilarious because, without ruining the movie, the masculine one hurts himself and Bunny takes over the role. So people have seen two different Zorros and they don't know how to describe them. because one of them has ball fringe around his hat, and it gets to the point where the guy playing the alcalde is like, is it red like a rose or red like a radish? It's just trying to tell the difference. I thought it was funny. I'm sure a number of people would see it and say that they thought that I was spectacularly stupid. But there are moments in that film of him as Bunny Wigglesworth that are, because Hamilton can do camp. And he can do, now I'm sure it would now be considered gay bashing.
Well, almost everything that we say about gays is considered gay bashing now. So
yeah, I have another quick one for you.
Yeah, what's up?
Why don't you help me decide what movie I should see? Because there's a bunch of classics I have not seen. Alrighty. Now, I'd really like to watch some, stoner Robert Mitchum noir stuff.
Mm-hmm. Like Cape Fear.
Yeah, Cape Fear. I see that. I could see, so Cape Fear, but I actually haven't seen Chinatown, the original one with Jack Nicholson and Faye Dunaway.
You've not seen Chinatown?
I have not seen Chinatown.
Neither have I.
Oh, man. Oh, that is a movie that when you get up from that, you'll say, I am so glad I saw that, and I'm so glad there's no law that forces me to watch it again.
Yeah, that's why
you will be so glad for the experience. And I had the same experience with the movie Nashville. I was so glad that I saw it, and I was so glad I never had to watch another minute of that movie again.
That doesn't sound like a glowing endorsement.
Well, and they were for different reasons. The Chinatown, because the acting was just sparkling. It absolutely comes off the screen and just fills you. Yeah, Jack Nicholson is so good, it defies belief. It really does. How what a talented guy that guy is, and
when he wants to be.
Yeah, when he wants to be, exactly. Sometimes he just mails it in. He's kind of a slop.
Yeah, I think a lot of times he mails it in.
But he didn't. He couldn't mail it in 1974 like he could later.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He was earning the right to mail it in.
Yeah.
And so he was still doing a good job, and he does an excellent job. And in Chinatown, people get put off because he's in the movie, but it's well,
that's their problem. That doesn't bother me.
It's a lot different kind of role than what you might think that Jack Nicholson would be playing. The I forgot. There was another point I was going to make, but that's.
Or the other movie that you saw that you were glad you didn't need to see again.
Oh yeah, well, Nashville. The reason that I did want to go back and see that was, even though it's a brilliantly made movie, there's so much misery and human depravity in that movie that all you want to do is get out of that theater and go home and take a shower.
Was that Bogdanovich?
No.
Who the hell?
I don't remember who developed who. I used to know that Nashville movie director. What was that? Robert Altman.
Altman. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
that makes sense. That makes sense that you'd want to take a bath.
So Chad is suggesting a couple things, like brought up Failsafe. And Failsafe is a great movie, except unfortunately, it's like it used to give me nightmares when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I was going to say that the only bad thing Henry Fonda ever made was Jane.
Yeah, you're not. Well, Peter ain't that great either.
Well, a bit. He's not. Well, Peter's not Jane Fonda, but Henry Fonda was a hell of a good actor.
Yep.
He's of the 39 Steps. That's an interesting one.
I haven't seen the 39 Steps. Have seen North by Northwest.
Have you seen Strangers on a Train?
I don't recall.
But you want a classic.
Strangers on a Train is
some of those are good movies, but
that's why I was thinking. Chinatown, Sunset Boulevard. I haven't seen a bunch of that sort of stuff.
You've seen Rear Window, right?
I have seen Rear Window.
Okay, good. Thank God.
Thank God.
No, that falls in the
it's important. Goddammit.
Thank God, because it's one of those films that the guys that Cree worked with used to watch movies on their lunch break, and they were watching some more modern film at the time, and Cree was like, "Oh, great," and they were like, "What?" And he said, "It's a remake of Rear Window," and everybody in the room said, "What?"
Yeah, they had no idea what he was talking about.
And he was like, "You plebs haven't seen Rear Window." I mean, he was actually horrified that
when you see Rear Window, it's amazing how you get reminded that so many movies are remakes of Rear Window,
yes.
or have some kind of cinematic
homage to it.
Owe something, owe something to Rear Window. That is a pivotal movie. Of everything that's been discussed so far, I would say that Chinatown and Rear Window are the ones that I would pick out and see right away.
If I had
I've already seen Rear Window. So
yeah, if I had only one Hitchcock
Chinatown
to pick for people to watch, it would be Rear Window. I picked that above Psycho. Psycho's fine, but Rear Window's better.
I mean, Hitchcock's fine for the most part. I mean, I know it's awesome and everybody loves it, but it's not really my favorite thing.
No,
and I've seen enough Hitchcock. I've seen enough Hitchcock that I don't feel like that's the next thing on the list.
Yeah, North by Northwest is good until the end. The end is ridiculous, but the rest of the movie's fine.
Yeah, I actually like Vertigo better than North by Northwest.
Yeah, well, I think North by Northwest drags.
Yeah,
and the end is stupid.
Yeah, why don't you just watch Gallipoli, Harry? Because I don't feel like killing myself.
Oh yeah, God Christ! Gallipoli
is like the most depressing movie.
It is.
Thank God that Von Karajan deliberately set Albinonia's Adagio slower in his rendition of it. And that's what they used in the movie, or else I'd never be able to listen to that piece of music again. And it's an exquisite piece of music. But I cannot listen to the Von Karajan because it's like having a fucking flashback. I mean, it's just...
I know we all feel the same way.
It's like Breaker Morant. Saw it once, don't need to see it again.
There was...
fabulous film. Absolutely.
Music is like that. I was thinking about rewatching In the Loop, the Iannucci thing, because we mentioned it, I think, on Saturday. And in the promo reel for it that's on YouTube, they have this synthesized version of the William Tell Overture playing. And I'm, of course, flashing back to Clockwork Orange, and not a particularly pleasant scene in a Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
I'm like, you are not making me want to watch this movie.
Yeah.
Are you aware of what you're doing? Or do you just think that people won't notice?
One good thing about A Clockwork Orange is I was pretty drunk when I saw it. Fortunate for me, because I remember seeing it and thinking it was actually a rather amazing film, and I never wanted to see it again.
Yeah, I just thought it was good in parts.
It was, yeah. I mean, it wasn't, the whole thing wasn't great. It was
so uneven.
Malcolm McDowell was amazing. Yeah. But I feel the same way about Blue Velvet. Blue Velvet is a very interesting movie.
The horse did a good job.
Yeah. But I can't.
Elizabeth Taylor was overrated. I'm sorry.
Isabella Rossellini improves movies for most male audiences. But I still have Dean Stockwell. May he rest. He passed away recently, and Dennis Hopper burned in my head, and I just don't. I want get it out. That's the problem with Lynch.
Dean Stockwell. He, I know, like you said, he passed away recently, and as I was watching the recent Dune thing, I kept thinking to myself, most of the casting here is pretty good, but I'd actually be just as happy if Dean Stockwell was still the guy doing this. They didn't really improve on him in the casting. I thought it was probably one of the weakest casting decisions they made. He was just not good.
Yeah.
And it's not like Dean Stockwell was a great actor. I mean, he could really chew up some scenery, but you kind of liked him because he was not very good. He was just in everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was great in Quantum Leap.
He didn't have to be good in Quantum Leap. He was perfect in that thing. But yeah, they really missed an opportunity. They should have had somebody else. That was not good casting.
Mm-mm. No, he was not. He was not.
I mean, the new Dune that you haven't seen.
I know that I'm not going to see.
Yeah, the one you're not going to see.
Harry, I can only. How many disappointments should I have to experience?
I'm not suggesting
over the same story.
I'm not suggesting anybody see it. Like I said, my review is it's a solid B.
It's like I don't
should have been an A, and there's really no excuse for it not being an A.
Anybody to make a movie of Dragon Riders of Pern, okay? Don't do it.
Oh, sometimes a bad movie is just as good as a good movie, though, because it's just, you get to talk to your friends about it.
Lord of the Rings?
Rotoscoped? No.
Yeah. Okay. And get back to me after you do.
Yeah.
The people.
But anyway, guys, you have spent the last 2 hours of your life with us. It's time for us to start wrapping up now.
Oh, yeah, I'd say.
I want to thank chat for coming out and listening to us prattle on. And have either of you got anything that you wanted to share? Any last minute things that you wanted to share with us?
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I will not be spending this Thanksgiving with you all. So,
yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And that's pretty much all I've got, too. I think I've yammered enough for 1 2-hour period.
All right. Well, it's been fun. 2 hours passes in nothing flat, and we went over, and that's absolutely fine. But I had a good time too. It's so much fun to hang with my friends and just talk with other friends who come to listen to us talk. And I'm going to close with something. This is one of the little things that you just get when you read J.R. Tolkien that you don't get in other literature. You get poetry like this. And just read a couple of lines of this. All that is gold does not glitter. Not all those who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. From the ashes a fire shall be woken. A light from the shadows shall spring. Renewed shall be blade that was broken. The crownless again shall be king. I mean, he just would spin that stuff out, by the mile and insert it into his books as part of his folklore. He was building a body of folklore. He didn't even mean for these stories to be authoritative necessarily. Mm-hmm. And the idea of a strict canon was lost on him. He really wanted things to be a little bit more loosey-goosey, and maybe it was like this, but there could be an inaccuracy here. And he wanted the same level of uncertainty that historians face in trying to understand the past. But anyway, I just thought I'd read a little bit of poetry to kind of close it out for tonight. Thank you all for being a part of this. And thank my panel also and Blind Press for coming by. And with that, the zoo is closed. Good night, everybody.